I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm currently at. Done my research. I'm working today in Rozelle, which is the Wangal country, and I actually live in Cadigal Land back in Darlinghurst. I would also like to pay my respects to elders past and present. I wasn't going to post anything for Australia Day this year, like I don't normally plan to. I posted last year. It was literally just me walking in the park in front of St Vincent's Hospital, which is my local, and just at the traffic lights, there were all these stickers from visitor stickers. I was like, why are they putting visitor stickers on there? It was the thing that happened a couple of years ago, and literally it just looked like such a mess. People are using their visitor stickers from going to St Vincent's Hospital and sticking it on where you pressed across the lights. It became a thing on social media and online, and the Daily Mail UK picked it up as well. It wasn't just at St Vincent's Hospital, it was at RPA as well. And why keep Australia beautiful? Happy Australia Day? Or is it Invasion Day? It's both, actually. So in 2013, I was with Sydney Rams, Sydney Rams 10-pin bowling. You can call it gay bowling, it was, technically, but we followed all the guidelines, and did all the scoring, etc. And it was their 30th anniversary, 30 years, and we actually had a Mardi Gras float. At that time, we actually had a general meeting at Town Hall. They had speakers on a stage, etc. And then we were going to walk, slowly up Oxford Street. We did actually have a police escort because, funnily enough, we got heckled for being gay. Back in 2013 is when we learnt what the IQ in the LGBTIQ was, before it was LGBTQ, which they attest to a lot in America. So it was actually literally on stage, and we had a member of the intersex community, on stage, and they said, look, we don't get a lot of representation. We're not looking for anything other than just your support. And we're like, what is this? So we learnt a lot on that day. And then the second people to get up on the stage were actually the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders representative. They literally just said, never said anything disrespectful against you guys. We support you, we love you, but there's just one thing that we ask, that you support us too. And we're like, we thought we were, but it wasn't anything dramatic. It was just wholesome and beautiful. So way back in the day, when it was less socially acceptable to not be heterosexual, in Sydney in particular, there was a situation. It was like the Stonewall of Sydney, where some people were actually bashed by the police, taken up to Taylor Square, and literally the gay community had enough. And they're like, you know what, we don't accept this. That's when they went up Oxford Street, protested, and literally stayed outside the police station, demanding change, etc. That was actually the first Mardi Gras, you could call it that. So from the ashes, came beauty, etc. And I know lots of things have changed since then, but in terms of supporting one another and that sort of thing, in terms of the Aboriginal community, they don't really protest, they do it properly, but there's no aggression, there's no violence, there's no riots. Do we have to be loud to be taken seriously? That's the question. Maybe in other countries it's a different scenario, but I've always had respect for the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islanders community but does that mean because they're quiet that we should have apathy towards them? No, not really. So a lot of the stuff that I do online is as a humanitarian, and there's a big title to hold on to, but that's the only way to describe it, and I have had it used against me. Only recently, a few weeks ago, when I commented on something that was happening overseas, and I said, well, we can't save the world, and I wouldn't say attacked, but, a lot of people saying, your apathy, is that going to really help? And, if you have numbers built up, the guiding light was a few people who did get me. They're like, I see that, but how about this? That was healthy. It doesn't bother me. It wasn't a personal. A friend of mine who's very active when it comes to awareness is, I'll name him, Gary Myers. He did a lot of literally walking and fundraising, and originally for, he was against live exports going overseas. So it was literally here in Australia, sending livestock, etc., English confined. As a friend, he never really forced anything upon me. He wanted me to walk with him, which I love walking, but I couldn't do that distance. And I really felt like, am I really supporting him? Am I doing enough? But I did a lot of fundraising for St Vincent's Hospital as well, which is beautiful and admirable. But at the end of the day, I felt like, am I doing enough for myself if I'm just doing stuff online and talking to people? But that's when he showed me, I was actually helping. He wasn't too savvy on social media, and I helped him get his point across and help with the fundraising and the funding there. And that's when I realized you don't actually have to walk 1,000 miles to make a difference. I don't know everything about all cultures around the world, but it's a real shame that I know more about Native Americans than I do about the Aboriginal Torres Strait Islanders in Australia. It's a real shame. And why is that so? Not because I choose not to. I've worked with different key members before and friends. I've asked questions. I've tried to understand. But really, I just realised I wasn't exposed, especially like I do awareness for kids with disabilities and mental health. I don't have mental health issues and I don't have a disability, but I went to school with kids with disabilities. So for me, it's not that much of a big deal. It doesn't need to be. It's about exposure. So what do we do? Do we protest? Do we make a difference? Because I want to be sincere. I'm not Aboriginal, so how do I support them? The key wording lately has been allies. I like that. Why don't we give them the respect that they want or need, or what is it? I don't know. I'm asking you, what actually is it? It's a real shame that I know more about cultures overseas than I do here in Australia. Shame. With all due respect, with the land in Australia, are we doing it really well? We're selling a lot to foreign investors. Would the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders do that with their land? I'm not sure. So I've heard about the stolen generation. We've also heard about very recently, not that long ago, 1950s, 60s and 70s, we did have an estimated 225,000 babies from around 150,000 unwed mothers that were babies were forcibly removed from their mothers and given up for adoption. Not the stolen generation way back then, but recently here as well. I'll be honest with you, it happened to somebody that I knew. She wasn't looking for compensation. She was looking for some understanding. She was really looking for an answer because her child had been taken away from her. She doesn't remember signing the documents or what that situation was. But I'll be honest with you, after this, and Julia Gillard did do an apology on the 21st of March 2013. There was funding and boards set up to try and assist these mothers. She just wanted an answer. Was her son alive or dead? Where was he buried? How could she have some peace? In the 50s, 60s and 70s, it was the government, again, that acted on our behalf to remove these children from these mothers because it was on their best interest, what they thought was their best interest. And at the end of the day, people are still searching for answers. Yes, Julia Gillard did, on the 21st of March 2013, apologise. 2014, Channel 9's television series Love Child was brought out. It wasn't completely fictitious. It was literally based up on this storyline. So my point there was they were using, and I quote, coercive means to pressure mothers into giving up their children. In the year 2020, a couple of years ago, literally COVID, I think we experienced that with the government. So with all due respect, I personally believe that politics and religion should stay out of healthcare. So if the government, bookkeepers, they're not necessarily specialists in their field, like the Minister of Health isn't necessarily a health professional, just keep that in mind. If these people are acting on our behalf and then years later they apologise, sometimes it's a little bit too late. Resist the urge to propose solutions for Aboriginal issues, but rather listen deeply. Great advice. Also, I learned recently, I was like, in New Zealand, do they actually have like a New Zealand Day? Yes, they do. It's the 6th of Feb. It's called Waitangi Day. That was kind of upsetting because what I learned was they had a treaty back in the day where it was literally acknowledging, Great Britain, part of the Commonwealth, but at the end of the day, they were respecting the local Maori community. That I work very closely with Biodynamic Sydney, talking about earth culture and how we can actually make the soil better and capture carbon. What's that? At the recent bushfires that we had a couple of years ago, you do realise that all the money that came in worldwide has been held by the government and they're still holding that money. You do realise that we will have flooding and bushfires again coming up in future. You do realise we don't have any plans in place other than emergency evacuations. for when those happen. You do realise that the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander communities have been doing this for centuries. I'm not saying that they're experts, but I'm saying they're so much better than we are. We are reactive, not proactive. Perhaps we can learn from Japan when they have natural disasters. They literally recover quicker with less stress to the people and the community. We can learn a lot more. That's my point, positively. Down on a superficial level, let's talk about raw ingredients. We're talking the beauty world, which I literally work in, has flourished recently when it comes to raw ingredients from the Australian market. We're talking Kakadu plum is the big one. It has 100 times more vitamin C than oranges do. Kangaroo apple, do you know about that? No, you don't. It's not a niche thing. It's not just there because it's Australian. It's literally the features and benefits. Desert lime, golden wattle, Australian green clay, Australian pink clay. You would have known about those recently from other brands using them, but they just kind of just used those raw ingredients. They didn't have it like we do where I work. But my point there is the world is changing when it comes to Australian ingredients at the same time as well. So what can we learn a lot more is by listening as well at the same time and really seeing the benefits that other cultures can bring to us as well. Not just going, okay, all right, it's invasion day. I'm just going to do my best to enjoy myself. It's about showing them respect and getting that back as well and really advance Australia fair.
Really try to be honest. That's all I can do in this moment.